Morning, Tomas here with the latest from the KUAM Podcast Network. Tomas, tell us a little bit about From the Files.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you welcomed me into the podcast network, Chris. Really great to be part of that network. And
You're in the club.
You're in the club.
I'm in the club
Your
officially.
indoctrination
We're going to get you
complete.
a pin, a podcast network pin.
Thanks, I would and maybe the premium pay after.
The hazing is complete. You don't have to run and get Chris coffee
Yeah, and
anymore.
so all jokes aside, though, as KUAM celebrates 65 years of its voice in the Marianas, we decided to launch this new podcast. It's called From the Files. It is what it says it is. We're bringing you all of the great reporting and footage that this team has put together through the past over 6 decades. You might see some familiar faces, but you listening to us now will definitely know some of the stories that we're going to be reporting on. On this episode, we reach back. Joser was there with me a few months ago scanning the tapes, and that was quite a treat for someone like me entering journalism, having to scan tapes that I didn't have to cut myself.
First of all, what are tapes?
But
there's a thing called Betamax that those of us old farts used way back.
You would bring a beta.
Yeah. And so much content. This is why, we're starting it off with this 11-minute podcast, which you can now find across all the platforms and also our Facebook page and YouTube page. Today, we're going to be focusing on some of the major devastating typhoons that the region has been through, specifically Typhoon Omar, Typhoon Paka, and Typhoon Satsa. And we're going to show you the interviews we got right after those typhoons, and every new episode will be dipping back into our history based on what we have here literally stored away on our shelves, which is the tapes of the past 65 years.
Yes, and so we're going to play this now, guys. It's the first episode of From the Files, and we'll come back and tell you about some other great things that are cooking on the KUAM Podcast Network. Good morning.
Welcome to From the Files. We reach into our archives to recap, rewind, and remember headlines from the past 65 years of KUAM. In this episode, we're digging into our files, taking a look at typhoons that devastated our region. We'll bring you the sights and sounds from Typhoon Omar in 1992, Typhoon Paka in 1997, and Typhoon Satsa in 2002.
Typhoon Omar not only wreaked havoc with our lives, but also the many thousands of visitors who happened to be here when the storm struck.
There is the immediate cost of rebuilding, of course, what Omar destroyed, but there's also a long-term toll on what's been the island's bread and butter.
Omar turned the bustling Tumon tourist mecca into a virtual ghost town, and the tourism industry is just now getting back on its feet.
Typhoon Omar made landfall in 1992. Nestor Lecanto and Ginger Cruz anchored from in the field, examining the economic crisis that followed. Reporter Patrick McMurtry saw some of the devastating damage.
Thousands of homeowners share a common task, rebuilding what Omar tore down. The typhoon damaged an estimated 4,000 homes, destroying over 1,000 of them. The initial reaction of most of the people facing the enormous challenge of rebuilding their homes was positive. Federal officials credit this to Guam's vast experience in rebuilding after typhoons. The first chore, clearing debris. The second, apply for federal aid, and when the money starts coming in, reconstruction begins. Many of those affected by the storm apply for Small Business Administration loans, and the lead man for the SBA, John Brenner, says both the pace of applications and processing have been on the fast track.
Say some of the smaller loans, some of our unsecured loans they go very fast. As a matter of fact, of the applications we've received, we already have approvals that are back in Sacramento, and the latest word I had is we have funding on them already. So we're just waiting for some word of when, within the next week, when we're going to be able to start doing some disbursement on some of the smaller loans.
Brenner says the number of applications handed out by the SBA after Omar surpasses the number of apps handed following Typhoon Pamela in 1976. That means a lot of people will be building or rebuilding in the coming months. But what about the people left homeless after their rental units were destroyed? That question will likely plague the ad administration for a long, long time. One suggestion is to build a large apartment complex.
Do that, what the governor is proposing, and again we have strong legislative support on this, is that another area be turned over to the Guam Housing Corporation. Guam Housing Corporation will use its own financing ability to erect an apartment structure of a minimum of 200 units, and these will be immediately put on the rental market. And again, they'll be the program will be set up so that for those who are lower income, Section 8 assistance will be available.
That may be a short-term solution, but could to be a long-term housing project no better than a ghetto. Still, it's one unique solution lawmakers will consider. A grassroots movement gathering steam would have the government build a lot of the Lockwood homes that came through Omar unscathed. Besides being durable, the homes can, at least according to the builder, be put up in 2 weeks.
And some residents give back while building back. In this next story from our 1993 rebroadcast, KUAM takes a look back at some of the relief efforts, many of those in the community serving for the greater good.
The outpouring of support to help those hurt by Omar was perhaps among the best in the world. In 3 weeks, the people of Guam gave $1 million to the effort, not counting all the other little gestures of kindness that made life easier for all of us.
The majority of them, they're very generous. Some there's no response. They just nod their head no, or they just leave.
We're trying our best to make them as much typhoon-proof as possible, but still, we're not going to guarantee it because they are not concrete.
His name is Omar, just like the storm. He eats a fury too. His favorite food is crispy bills, 1,000 thin and new. He's trained to stay right by your side until the job gets done. Please give and share as best you can for the American Red Cross Fund.
We saw this an antenna today that had toppled onto a car, and it was a rather pretty extravagant hood ornament for the size of the car. Kind of crushed the hood and the roof right into the tires.
Well, we're just trying to keep the public moving, because of the lights have been out. We want to help GPD control the traffic moving. That way you have less accidents. Well, it's like anybody, you entertain them, they're in a good mood, they keep moving. They don't get frustrated. When you get frustrated drivers, you get careless drivers.
5 years later, our files show images of Typhoon Paka, which ripped through Guam in 1997.
These images of Typhoon Paka ripping its way through Guam is now giving way to pictures like these. Although it's been 5 days since the storm slammed into our island, recovery efforts are only just beginning. Islanders are still waiting for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to give them money to recover. Here is just a handful of more than 200 members affected on Guam. Ever since Typhoon Paka damaged equipment at Guam International Airport, flying people into Guam has been slow.
Well, that, of course, has been our primary problem, the inability to get the people here. We have the people waiting to come, but we can't get them in.
Newton says it will be another 7 to 10 days before disaster recovery centers are set up. In addition to those,
we have what's going to be called a teleregistration assistance line, which starting tomorrow, I believe, and we'll have more information later today on that, people will be able to call beginning tomorrow a number, and they can apply for assistance by calling that phone number.
The organization will not be releasing that number until the system is activated. Meanwhile, FEMA is not the only agency working to put Guam residents back on their feet again. The Salvation Army has been helping out since day one. But with 100 mouths to feed every day, Captain Dave Harmon says supplies are running out.
We have exhausted our supply of pantry food. That's groceries that we give out to have cooked. So we're restocking on that, and we'll be be going on that again early in the new week.
Starting tomorrow, the organization will begin handing out free clothes to victims. You'll need a written statement from a mayor, priest, or government official saying you need help. And for those of you who are lucky to have escaped Paka, relatively unscathed,
whatever the community or the public can do to help provide resources, whether it's financial or in-kind donations, we would really appreciate their KUAM in helping to see that the families who have been greatly affected by this typhoon have those resources.
And in 2002, Satsa made landfall.
Condition 1 is 12 hours out. And that is actually going to indicate wind of about 58 to 60 miles per hour. damaging winds 58, 60 miles per hour.
Its eye passed northern Guam and brought heavy rain and wind. Here's our report on the aftermath.
Even during the midst of the second wave of Typhoon Satsa, and residents in the central part of the island were taking stock of the damage to their homes and trying their best to clean and repair their land. Flooding and down power and telephone lines in the downtown areas of Agana and parts of Tamuning stall drivers as they make their way through the streets checking out the devastation. With sustaining winds at 115 miles per hour with stronger gusts, vehicles here in Tamuning were thrown as if they were toy cars. The scene seems so unreal, considering many people never truly expected the storm to hit so hard. That's especially true for the vendors who had set up shop at this year's Liberation Carnival, who may not have heeded the warnings to secure their sites and have now lost nearly everything. The light materials used to construct their booths were no match for Satsa Ann's fury. The destruction at the Tizen site is heart-wrenching, considering the time, money, and hard work the vendors put into their temporary businesses. Tin, lumber, and even merchandise, food, and prizes were strewn about, much of it damaged beyond repair. For Johanna, it was crushing to find her booth destroyed, as she and her family have sunk a great deal of their savings into the carnival site, especially as it was their first time setting up a booth.
Yes, this is my first time. It was actually my sister-in-law. She left off island, so she handed it down to me. And this is my very first time. It was good in the beginning.
Johanna and her family, like most of the other vendors, will now have to pick through the rubble, trying to save what they can, trying to recoup their losses.
Just try and salvage everything as much as I can. At least our birds are still there. The animals, at least are hard to find here, especially they're from our island.
The amount of money lost by both the vendors and the government of Guam through the annihilation of the carnival cannot even be measured yet. Department of Administration Acting Director Cliff Guzman.
It's devastating, definitely. I mean, a lot of people put a lot of hard work into this, and there was a lot of high expectations and hopes that it would be a good thing for us. Nobody expected this, and I don't know what we're going to do now. I'm going to have to talk to vendors. Some of them are out here picking up some stuff and seeing what they can salvage, and it'll be up to the vendors what they want to do, and we'll have to balance that against the cost of cranking it up if we do that.
Here at Tizen, I'm standing at what was, until yesterday, the site of the Liberation Carnival, as usual, slated to carry on throughout the summer. However, until assessments can be made, it's unsure at this point whether the carnival will even resume, as this site, like so many others, is utterly devastated. Reporting from Tizen for KUAM News, I'm Yana Person. These images from our files seared in our island's memories, a reminder of what still might be brewing in our future. You're listening to From the Files. I'm Tomas Manglona. Stay tuned for more episodes from our KUAM podcast network.
Very nice.
Very compelling, my friend.
Well, that was the work of all the past KUAM team too. I mean, just amazing.
We're standing on their shoulders.
There you go.
Yeah, and only more to come. I mean, there's like literally shelves full of tapes back there, so I'm sure that we'll be busy.
So we saw Ginger Cruz. We saw Nestor came back to KUAM after working at CNBC and the TSA.
We saw that guy macheting, and I was looking at that guy macheting. I was like, I used to have a pair of quick dries like that.
Yeah. Yana Person, who was with us for a couple of years, she came over from. I'm Tar Heel born, I'm Tar Heel bred, and when I die, I'm Tar Heel dead.
I'm just waiting for that goat to make a comeback. Where's that goat now?
Yeah, where's that goat? Probably somebody Kadu.
Yeah, and it will be interesting later to learn where some of those people that we interviewed are now and how things have been since then.
Yeah,
too, so.
it kind of just started accidentally because they were talking about, we got all these tapes, we're gonna have to clear them out, and somebody was like, hey, hold on a second, some good stuff on there.
Was that you? Somebody?
Yes, it might have been.
Yeah.
So what
Somebody
was it
said.
like? What was it like, Tomas, going through those tapes? Because I want to say this stuff happened before you were born?
I was born in 98.
98, okay.
So a lot of things happened before me.
Right.
No, Cheta An was 2002, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Omar was 97.
Yes.
Before you were born a year. And what was the other one?
92. Yeah.
Paka was 92.
And so, it was quite something. And, I mean, the commercials alone could be its own its own series. I mean, Wow, it was amazing. It was fantastic to review.
What, you had commercials in there?
Yeah, because they were the whole shows.
Oh man,
So we didn't put the commercials in here.
when I was in marketing school, we used to write entire papers like on Guam. I'm gonna hit my retros and get back to Tumuni. Remember that?
So
Super chick.
Yeah, just lots of gems, and of course the stories. Especially with the typhoons, they're always devastating. But it provides us a chance to look back and maybe also kind of anticipate what may be coming as well. I mean, history tends to repeat itself in a lot of ways.
Yep.
So
knock on wood, because I'm telling you that this generation now, this cast of characters that we have living on Guam have not seen, well, for the most part, anyone who was born in 1998 and up.
Yeah. Well,
haven't seen this type of thing.
I mean, there's been Sulor and U2 and the Sinamai, so
Yeah.
if you've been there for that, you've kind of had a, that
definitely.
experience. But we're gonna continue to bring that. There's no shortage of footage back there. So
Right, and so we were kind of kicking around what would be some of the next few episodes.
Yeah, so let us know if you remember a particular event and you want us to dig into it. Let us know. There's
Literally
so many,
dig?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, like sort through the tapes back there.
952. Other things that we have going on the KUAM Podcast Network is popular local priest Father Eric Forbes is going to be doing Ileknesi Pali. I was able to very glad it's his podcast, but he asked me to jump on and kind of like bounce things off of. So we recorded a couple episodes last week, and we're going to put that out next week. Really excited about that because